Place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday, May 19th, 2025, and this is episode 1038 of Living Free in Tennessee, and a Sunday show. So it's a Just Nicole show. I see we've got some lively people in the live stream. Carrie Haas, welcome to the live stream. We're going to talk about being chronically late. And I say this as a person who got a text message 3 weeks ago, 5 minutes after a meeting had started, from Carrie, who's in the live stream, saying, "Are you joining us?" So understand, I come at this from a place of complete understanding that sometimes we run late. Beth Emily, welcome to the live stream. But we're going to talk about how building success into your life requires that you take control of your schedule. And if you're one of those people who's chronically late and you're like, I don't want to hear this, that's probably the thing you need to hear today. It was funny when I saw Joel Salatin speak, he said, if there's something on your homestead that you've been putting off that you need to do, that's probably the thing you need to do most. So I wrote it down on my little notebook that day because I thought, well, that's a good point. We will also, of course, go through all of our usual Monday segments. Pippinized, welcome to the live stream. Before we do that, I want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and it happens this week, starting Friday at Polyface Farm, where you can go see how regenerative agriculture really works at Joel Salatin's place. It's the Exit and Build Land Summit, and it is Friday, Saturday at Polyface in Swoop, Virginia. I'm going to be there speaking. There's some really awesome folks up on the agenda. And if you stay over on Sunday, there's an extra masterclass. That seems pretty cool too. You get some one-on-one time or one-on small group time with Joel Salatin. So definitely, if you've been thinking about this Memorial Day weekend, what do I want to go do? That would be a good thing to do. And we could meet in person and we could talk in person. I'll have a little bit of coffee for sale. Kerry Brown has agreed to sell some of my coffee at his booth there, but I'm only bringing like 20 pounds to sell because, you can also order it online. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's going to be a really good time. I've spoken at every Exit and Build Land Summit for all of them. So this is number 5. And it's always something different. They have a slightly different focus every year. I'm going to be talking about building revenue streams on your homestead, but I'm going to talk about that in the context of some hard truths about homesteaders and tracking finances. So we're going to get into some stuff there and hopefully open some people's eyes on all the ways you can actually monetize your homestead. We don't always, put the attention to that we think we should, but, there you go. I'm actually wondering if I'm live on Rumble. Oh, cool. That's me being live on Rumble. So if you follow Living Free in Tennessee on Rumble today, I finally figured out how to do a live stream and make it actually go live. Jack said something the other day and I was like, oh, I see. So I thought today I'd test it out and it's working. Okay, I also want to thank 2 sponsors of today's show. The first sponsor is agristtaxadvice.com. Matthew Sursley has been involved with our community for years now, and he's always willing to take questions in person. So if you meet him at an event and have a question, he's not like, oh no, I can't tell you that because you have to book an appointment with me. He's been very giving with information, and I appreciate that about him. What I really appreciate about him, though, is he has a really good memory. And he memorizes tax code well. And then he can say hey, this is how you're structured. I've analyzed it. And I think if you restructure this way, you might be able to take advantage of some additional write-offs. Or he can say, I see you're not taking these write-offs. Here's how you track it. Here are risks associated with them. His goal is to help you keep more of your money in your pocket. Check out more at agristaxadvice.com/LFTN. He has an email list. You should totally sign up for that. It's a weekly email. It's an easy read. And for me, it's always something useful about taking advantage of the tax codes so that I can keep more of my money in my pocket. Our second sponsor of today's show is Discount Mylar Bags. I just used those bags today over in the Roasty Shack. That's right. Toby provides all of the bags for Hollow Roast Coffee. And he's leveraging his superpower, which is to source things that are in bulk for less money and then pass it on to you, and you don't have to buy a whole container. If we all buy from him, it helps him source more things in bulk. It's kind of a cool business model, and he's built a whole retirement business based on this. He used to work at the Dollar General and eventually was able to retire, in air quotes, and work for himself. Anybody who works for themselves knows that's not really retiring, but we'll call it retiring for now. Anyway, check him out. DiscountMylarBags.com if you just want to hear some ways to store food, what size packaging you might like, and all of those thoughts that Toby's put into food storage for long term. He has a bunch of free resources on the website on the right hand side, DiscountMylarBags.com. I also wanted to mention, if you have feedback about the show or questions, get those into me by about June 6th. I'm going to do a variety show in mid-June and would love to answer any questions you have. So if you've been like, I've been meaning to ask Nicole this, send that in, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. I haven't done a variety show in a long time, and I realized I've sort of been building answers into the show as I get them via email, but I thought it'd be fun just to do a round robin. And you know what? I realized on Sunday that the 9th anniversary of the Living Free in Tennessee podcast is this Wednesday. And I'm actually not doing a show on Wednesday because I'm going out of town. So we're going to celebrate our anniversary in June. This is when I will be here, just because I figured, well, when you hear today's topic, you'll know why we're not doing a show on Wednesday. And that's going to be celebrated with a traditional, old school Living Free in Tennessee variety. So send that stuff in, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. Okay, with that, it's time for our first Monday segment, Tales from the Prepper Pantry. This is where we talk about storing what you use and using what you store. We got big changes coming to the holler right now. And some of them started because Tactical adjusted how he approaches the day. But also, we've had some clarity on what our community project looks like. We've always been sort of poking around the edges of this holler neighbor thing in the community. And it was really weird. I was on the road and he was here, and we're both getting like hit with like ideas and clarity about this process. And so that's going to impact the pantry. It's really good. We just redid the whole thing, right? So, yeah, the pantry's changing. I'll share what happens as that just reveals itself. Let's just say what's going to happen over the next few years is I'm pretty sure there's going to be a bigger pantry with more food and more of it produced here. So it's pretty cool what's brewing. Jim says, hey, all. Here come all of us that were on watching Jack. Oh, Jack must have just ended. Cool. So the process itself is like, I've spent years developing the pantry process here, and I have that webinar series, the Power Pantry Method. I'm really glad I put a lot of thought into that because it's scalable to what's happening next in the holler, and I'm kind of excited about it. So I was like, oh, good. At least I don't have to develop that one system, because there are a whole lot of other systems being developed here right now. We have one more big trip for me where I'm doing my best to source things from the pantry, but this time I have a caveat. I'm going to Polyface Farms, and Polyface has a store, and the stuff in the store is locally produced, regeneratively produced grocery product, which means I don't need to drag everything with me. So I'm bringing my smaller cooler. I'm bringing, like some meats and cheeses and stuff, and coffee, of course. But my plan is to get to Virginia and hopefully be cooking most of the dinner sorts of meals. We don't have dinners, I don't think, with the event. So dinner meals, I'm hoping to cook at the Airbnb. I need to see it before I source, but that means that I can actually buy some meats from Joel Salatin to serve rather than drag all of our stuff from here to there, which is what I usually do. So but while I'm away, of course, the redneck needs to eat. And I was super stoked to see I had a ham in the freezer, and that's what he's getting. I mean, that's not all he's going to eat, but I said, like, how do you want to do meals this time? Because he likes to cook. And he said, well, it'd be really helpful to have, like, especially the first day you're gone, a crock pot meal, because then it's just done. And when it's time to eat, I don't have to think, oh yeah, like, what do I cook? Or get tempted to go, not that he ever runs to the store, but sometimes he just doesn't eat right if there's not a plan in place. So I was like, okay, cool. We'll just do a chili or a roast or something. And I was like, there's a ham. And I looked at him yesterday. I'm like, do you want me to just cook that ham? And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be perfect. Because a ham, you can cook it. You have a nice hot meal, right? And then you can eat it cold all day if you're snacky or whatever. So that's a good one to have in the freezer. It's my last ham in the freezer. I'm hoping to get a pig from Ken Esch this year, or a half a pig, and have pork in the freezer again. I'll have to follow up with him and see. Last time I talked to him, the timeline was like a year out, which is totally fine because I've got so much lamb meat in the freezer that there's that to eat through. Plus, I was still eating through other pork that I had. So we're almost through all of the pork from our pigs and all of the pork that landed here from another source. And then it's going to be time to do that again. In the meantime, I do plan to cure some beef bacon instead of pork bacon. So when I run out of pork bacon, I'll take some brisket and make beef bacon out of that. And this is just how we like use everything coming through there. Like the whole point is store what you eat and eat what you store, right? And that can be an interesting learning process as you get more methodical with your pantry. But as that happens, your grocery bill goes down because you're not wasting as much. And that's kind of cool too. Operation Manufacture Meatloaf is going to happen in June, where I make a bunch of meatloaves to support future travel. I'm not planning. So you guys have noticed I've spoken at a lot of events recently, and everybody's like, your travel schedule is not slowed down, Nicole. Oh, yes, it has. I was doing that all the time, right? And so I did it in May. I'm not doing it in June. I'm not doing it in July, right? So it's just me home. And that means I can then set up for the fall when I have a couple more speaking engagements, or if I need to do family stuff, that sort of thing. And I was kind of realizing today, it's nice to have meatloafs like ready to go in the freezer for food for home while I'm gone, where I can just put one in the fridge to defrost. It just goes in the oven for an hour to an hour and a half. And Tactical loves meatloaf, so then it's always, he's like, yeah, I'll eat that. So I thought, I have a lot of ground meat. I have ground lamb, I have ground pork, and I have ground beef, and I can make some interesting combinations of meatloaves with that and just have them ready to go for when I'm busy, when I'm out of town, those sorts of things. In the audit of the canned goods, I put up a lot. I did not do as much canning last year as I usually do, I thought, but I put up way more than we ate. So there's a lesson from that. And I'm looking carefully, like, has our diet changed? I mean, I ended up with a lot of tomatoes, more than usual last year. So we put up more tomato sauce than we needed. And I guess what I could do is like cook some of that down into homemade ketchup or other things like that. But it also could mean that what we're tapping into is changing. So that's something I'll be thinking about this month as I go into, like, we're starting to harvest more than we can use now in the gardens, which then means it's time to do canning again. And I suspect if this year continues along its weather pattern that it's had, it's mimicking 2010 summer when I had more cucumbers than God, basically. There were so many cucumbers coming out of my garden. And so I ended up with relish and pickles and all of this stuff. And then that lasted me for a couple years, which is nice because then the next year I had a really crummy cucumber year and was thankful for those pickles. Well, this year I'm getting beets out the yang. So I'm hoping to replenish my pickled beet supply. I didn't plant enough in my garden to replenish my beet supply the way I would like to, but I'm pretty sure what's about to happen when I get back from Polyface is one of my favorite farmers at the farmer's market is going to have way too many beets. And I'm going to be like, great, how much for a whole box? And then I'm going to pickle those beets because we like pickled beets on our charcuterie tray. And one of the changes we've made here is a much more defined eating schedule. And one of the things we do at this time of year for lunch is it's just charcuterie platter, charcuterie being an over dramatization, but like I put meats, cheeses, and pickled things out, and it's a quick thing. It's delicious. It's stuff from the homestead. And when you're peckish in the middle of the day, it's about right. So then we can have a sort of later dinner at 6:30 at night and have had time to do our chores, take shower, have dinner, and then sort of cruise into an evening of reset. So anyway, that is the deal from the prepper pantry. I did also have a normal weekend for the first time in a long time, which started at the farmer's market and meant I did all of my food prep for salads and things like that on Saturday. So I'm ready to go for this week, even though I'm going out of town. Like so I like to have beets on salad. Beets are the topic today. I like to have beets on salad, and that requires that they be pre-boiled and cooled down again. And that's what we did there for salad prep. Plus, my lettuces are pretty much at the end of their life. I'm letting them bolt to collect seed. So I was able to buy lettuce from other farmers because they're doing the thing where they push the season a little bit. I didn't see it necessary with as small as my garden this year is to push lettuce further. I think it's, it's time for green beans and other things to come up in my gardens. And that means the lettuce has got a GTFO. Just like I took all the broccoli out, right? And I put eggplant and some other things out yesterday. The green beans are going in next. And then it's, and the tomato wall is halfway up the cords, and I still need the other part of the tomato wall put together. But I'm putting tomatoes in the soil this year and seeing how they do in the new soil that we were a lot more careful with as far as microbiological content in the new garden, to see how we do with blight. So I have 4 or 5 plants that'll go out, but the garden's small, so I don't have room to just extend seasons as much as possible. It's more like, okay, lettuce out of my way, broccoli out of my way, peas, you got to go. And it's time for green beans and tomatoes and peppers and basil, and the carrots, I'm letting them stay because they're starting to carrot out. The beets are there. The chard can stay. The chard's getting quite the haircut though, and if the chard looks like bad, it'll come out too, and I'll put some more green bean seeds in or something else. This may be the year that we do the fall garden better. I always say I'm going to do a fall garden, and then fall comes and I'm like, never mind, I'm not doing a fall garden because I'm doing a fall speaking set, and that means I'm out of town. I can't do the fall garden. But to do the fall garden, we need to start our seedlings in mid-July. I'll be in town in mid-July, so I can try for a set of fall brassicas and cabbages, which then I could be fermenting my cabbage for my sauerkraut at the time of year when it's not stupid hot. That'd be awesome. Anyway, that's what's up in the prepper pantry. Next up, we have a frugality tip from Margot, and it's about theme parks. Visiting a theme park or the like can end up costing an arm and a leg. You're allowed to bring snacks, 1 sealed bottle of water per person, just about everywhere. I carry a backpack and snacks and bring a cold bottle of water. I also bring empty thermal water bottle to transfer the cold water too, so it stays cold. Also, carrying a reusable water machines that only work with specific cup. The water will always come out. I'm sorry. I just read that wrong. Also, carrying a reusable water containment device allows you to refill at the water machine at the park. In parks that have freestyle machines that only work with a specific cup, the water will always come out even if you do not have that specific expensive cup. So you can save quite a few dollars and just carry a few things about by bringing your snacks and your water and hit the parks. Happy saving, y'all. That was not my best delivery of a Margot frugality tip, so I'm just going to summarize what she said. Basically, if this summer you're going to go to Disney World, you bring your bottle of water, which is allowed, a thermal water bottle that's refillable so you can refill at the different stations there, and snacks so you don't have to pay $8 for a hot dog or $12 for a hot dog. I think that's basically what she's saying. And that's really true. I find even on the road, bringing road snacks helps me avoid spending a lot of stupid money on stupid food that's not as good as the food I can bring. And with so many people having, allergies and all those things, a lot of the you can't bring food into places things have relaxed because people are like, great, do you have anything without soy? And they don't. So then they're like, fine. They've just sort of gotten over it at this point. Next, that's not everywhere, but that's many places. And Disney World may not be what she was thinking of, but that was the one I thought of because she's in Florida, and Disney World is also in Florida. Mississippi Homestead Journey, welcome to the live stream. Anyway, next up, we have Operation Independence, where we talk about building local ongoing revenue into our lives. Because here's the deal. If you're a homesteader in our community, then you need to do well, or else we're going to lose you. And I realized early on with my podcast when I first started that I was spending money to have a homestead. So working really hard so I could spend money to have a homestead where I worked really hard. and that seemed really dumb. And I was in debt, so I set up this whole Operation Independence project where I started by not needing to spend money on things, and then started by bringing money in. And um, one of the things I track are unexpected expenses. And right after the spring workshop, my cat died, and he died on a Sunday at an emergency vet, and it cost $800. Like, I was up to, because we were having a hard time figuring out what was going on, basically. And then when we figured it out, I was $800 in. They actually euthanized him for free because they felt like I had spent so much on testing, they'd cut me a break. But I'm not sure how much of a break that really is. But, I appreciate it. I appreciate not having to spend another, $80 to $100 on that process. So, yeah, so it was $800 that night, and I choked because last time I had done something like that, it was about $400. So I was not expecting it to be that much. And while the money was in my account to pay for it, it's been a very spare month because there's not an $800 emergency every month fund for me in my budget. That's not how my budget's built. And I do my best at this point to stay very disciplined with my money so that I have money when things go wrong. So, the obvious question came up when I got home. What can I sell? I was like sitting around in the morning, coffee with Tactical, and I'm like, money's tight. What can I sell? That's what we do. And coincidentally, my eyes fell on this box of old Magic the Gathering cards that my friend Leo's at the spring workshop went through. And he's like, you have some cards worth some money in here, Nicole. I'm like, well, since, like the last time I played that game was well before 2000, I have some old cards for sure. And Roar Tribe says, same. And I don't play Magic the Gathering. Like, occasionally I'll play it with a friend with a starter deck that's completely brand new so that we don't have to think about what's in the deck, and we just sort of play, and it's for kicks. So I don't really need this giant collection of Magic the Gathering cards. And so he had very kindly set aside some cards that were worth some money, he thought. And we're talking, I have a lot of revised edition things. And the card I had was called Wheel of Fortune. And I have more than one of those. So it's retailing anywhere from $200 to, on the high side, $400. So I'm like, okay, my card's probably worth about $200. If I get even half of that $200, it's no skin off my nose if it sells for less than its absolute highest price it could get. So I thought, okay, well, I've got 4 of these. So I'm going to do an experiment and put one on eBay and see how it goes. And I haven't sold anything on eBay in years because they ticked me off last time I sold something on there. And I was like, I'll just see how it goes. I put it with no reserve. So it could have sold for $5. And that would have been whatever. I would have learned a lesson. And then I would have taken my other Wheels of Fortune to a card shop. And it went for about $180, which I'm perfectly happy with. It sold yesterday. I mailed it out today. And that means I have $620 worth of Magic the Gathering cards to go to pay off Mortimer's vet bill. But I think the bigger lesson there is sometimes we have collections from our past that have value, like other people want them. And you know what? If you let it go, that can bring capital into your life. And when you have capital to work with on the homestead, it can offset an emergency like Mortimer having that stroke, or it can allow you to move forward on a project maybe you've been putting off because you didn't have $300 for a stand mixer and you want to start a baking business, or because you're trying to be disciplined with your money and you don't want to buy materials for that raised bed that you can put over there. Or like my next one is I want to build an archway on my hillside garden where the wild roses are so they stop taking over the world and start climbing the archway, right? And that requires materials. So let go of that stuff that you're just keeping around because nostalgia. Use the money for something you want now, because life's too short not to enjoy it now. Anyway, with that, it's time for the main topic of today's show. You know what it is, right? Stop lying to yourself about being late. The funny thing about this is I had this idea for this topic, and then I opened Jack's Laws of Life book that he released last week, which if you haven't got a copy, head over to Amazon and go Laws of Life, Spearco. That book will come up. He's done really great on his launch, and check it out. These are laws that he has, they're not laws he's come up with. They're laws he's observed that have worked to help make him more successful. And so I was like, okay, my morning reading this week will be like a chapter of Laws of Life every day just to see what it is. And I'd already decided to do this topic about lying to yourself about being late. And his first law is don't be late. It's basically to be on time. It's the positive statement of the same thing. So my confession, and the reason I'm talking, Pip and I says I've been selling off Jeep parts left and right. Yeah, exactly. That's what we were like. What else can we sell around here? There's clutter. Clutter is bad. If we sell it, we get money and we don't have clutter. It's like a win-win. And you know what? If you sell the thing you needed and you have to buy it again, that happens. It does happen. It does not happen as much as you think it does. You just remember it when it happens. And I found that I have so much value purging the stuff that, anyway, you'll hear more about that on a different episode. But my confession is this. I am terrible with time. I am not time aware at all. Nope. So I am known in the event world and in our network sort of jokingly as a time Nazi. And I keep events on schedule very well. Like occasionally I'll let somebody slip, but I basically hook people off the stage if they're going way too long. And the few times I haven't have been like when Joel Salatin spoke at SRF, everybody was hanging on every word. I had him in a slot where it went into an hour break after that for lunch. And I was like, if people want to give up half their lunch and stay here, they can. And he went a half hour over. And that was fine. But I keep things on time. And when they go off schedule, I'm very good at figuring out how to get it back on time. Because I'm terrible at time that I am a time Nazi. So how can these two things happen together? Pretty much as long as I can remember, I have had anxiety about being late. And part of that is because I used to get in trouble for going too slow or being late by my dad. We'd go to a store, and if I was taking too much time getting out of the car, like fussing around, basically, he'd be like, you're being disrespectful. You need to get your butt out of the car and come into the store with me because I'm not waiting for you to like whatever, So he didn't do that all the time, but he gave the message that you don't slow down somebody else because of your own whatever, right? And when we were supposed to be out the door by noon to go to a family reunion or something, if I wasn't like literally ready to going out the door at noon for my dad means we are walking out the door and into the car. He will leave without me. I don't know that he ever did, but I'm sure he like made motions too a few times. So I learned that you're actually ready to leave, walk out the door with a purse in your hand, and you've already peed at noon if somebody says we're leaving at noon. So I am also a person who hyper focuses on things. And when I hyper focus on something, it's at the expense of everything around me. Like everything completely disappears, including time. So it can be really easy to jump into something and not realize I needed to go somewhere and then end up late. I mean, I've actually missed airplanes, like missed my flight at the airport, sitting at the gate where my flight was early on my computer, concentrating on something so hard, I didn't realize what time it is that we had been called to board the plane or, that it had left. So the spoiler alert today is planes do not wait for you to finish writing that hard email you need to write. And then I walked up to the desk. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, what kind of idiot is this? And, luckily I got put on standby somewhere else that day, but they were yelling my name in the gate area. And I just was like, done. Right. So as a person who tends to hyper-focus on things, it can be really easy to jump into something and not realize that I had somewhere to go. And then I don't get there, or I don't get there on time. So if you've ever been around me much, then you may notice I'm usually a little early to things. I'm usually about 15 minutes early to everything. And if I'm 15 minutes early to something I shouldn't be early to, I tend to sit in my car for 10 minutes and then I'm 5 minutes early. I will show up on time to a dinner party. I know nobody does that. I do that. And I think it's because I've been time hurt. And I heard this term this weekend about being church hurt. And it's like people who go to church and the church hurts them and then they don't want to go to any other church. I've been time hurt by other people. And because I've been time hurt by other people, I really don't want to time hurt somebody. And it's really that simple. I have so much empathy for people that I don't want to hurt them by being late. So, are you somebody who's chronically behind and you just heard that people get hurt when you're late? That's the first message you need to hear today. Are you in the habit of sending text to people explaining that you're going to need another 5 minutes or 15? Do you constantly explain to people when you get together with them why you're sorry you're late or why you didn't make it on time? Today is for you. Today is for you. It might be hard to hear, but if you're listening to my podcast, you probably want to build more success in your life. You want to build a life that you love living. And if you're the chronically late person, that's actually getting in your way. Yeah, over the weekend, we had a visitor, Eric. He came by, and I was kind of talking to him about being late. And he was talking about work. He's like, I'm the guy who at my work, I log into the call 5 minutes early. And when I log into a call, it notifies everybody who's supposed to be on that call that I'm in the call. And then they think they're late. And then they freak out and they come to the meeting. And his boss like talked to him about like, why do you do that? And he said, because it's freaking everybody out. And then they think they're late. And he's like, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me, because if I get involved in fixing this problem that I'm working on for work, then I'm going to be late to the call, and it's not okay to be late to the call. And if my on there means that other people are on time to the call, I'm not sad about that result, right? But really it's because I will hyper focus on something and I'll be late. And so when I hear you guys start talking, then I know it's time for me to be on the call. And then I put my attention on the call. So, well, why would he have to do that? Probably because he's time blind like I am, especially when he's working on a problem in his head or working on a problem at work. And when you find a weakness in yourself, if you're somebody who hyper focuses and is time blind, you find a way to control for it, right? Like I can't lift as much as tactical. So when I unload things, I unload smaller, less heavy amounts and take more trips because I am weaker than he is. So I have to take more trips, and my way around being weaker than he is to take more trips. I unloaded a bunch of boxes for the roasting shack today, 3 sets at a time. He probably would have carried the whole box over there and just like unloaded it into there. And I could have gotten the dolly and done that, but I was like, it's not going to take that much time. I'm just going to take 3 sets of these boxes at a time and it'll be fine. So being time blind is both a weakness and a strength. So it's a strength when you want to focus, right? And you can focus so hard and you can get more done than a normal person. And the way when your boss like finds that out about you, like they don't know why. They just know that you get a lot more done than somebody else. It's because you're hyper focusing and you are like not getting distracted by anything else, and you are getting a boat ton done. Because you can ignore everything, including your need to pee, to get that done, right? You're just going to get the thing done and everything will cease to exist. And I've noticed when I do one thing at a time, I do, right? That is the superpower of time blindness. So when we talk about this today, about lying to yourself about why you're late, we're not saying don't ever hyper focus. We're just saying know that there's a weakness with it. What you trade for that is it can be a big price. That price to you being time blind is promotions. It's promotions at work. That price to you is getting ahead in your business. That price to you can be your very most important loving relationships in your life. That price to you can be your health. Because if you don't notice you have to pee, you also didn't notice you were drinking water or needed to eat or probably to get exercise today. There are so many things that you're trading for that if you're not aware of the fact there's a weakness side. That's why we're having this talk today. Because if you want to build a great life, you're going to want to have good relationships. You're going to want to have business partners. You're going to want to have employees who stay. You're going to want to be healthy, right? So I was really amused to see in Jack's book that the first thing in his laws of life was to be on time. And why did he say that? He said because being late to things is how you undermine your own success, basically. You are undermining your success when you're late. You lose deals. You lose business deals. You send a message to your employees that you are more important than they are. There's already this element of weird with employees in that regard, and you're just making it worse when you're late all the time as their boss. It's maybe not the most important or first toxic trait that you have that you need to leave behind to build the life you want to live. I think probably the first one is your negative self-talk. And the second one's probably procrastination. But I would say number 3 is be on time. Leave behind the I'm always late and this is why I'm always late. It's really high up on the list. And taking control of that means you have control of so many other things, like so many other things. But I think the core issue is bigger. It's the great lie that's the problem. And I'll give you an example. I'm late because my sheep got out and I had to chase them back in. That would be something I would say, coming late to a call. I like to use me as an example of this so you don't think I'm actually using you. It's a reason for sure. Like sheep got out, had to chase the sheep. Definitely a reason. It's true, but it's also a lie. There's a bigger problem here. Why did the sheep get out? Was it because the fence charger battery needed a swap and you hadn't swapped it out? And you didn't take the time to check it? And then you were supposed to go on this call and the fence wasn't working, so the sheep got out, so you had to chase the sheep back in, and then you had to go get the new battery and put the new battery in so they didn't get out again, and then you were late to the call. Was it because you left them on the paddock too long and they were hungry, and so they were like, I don't care about the fence, the good food's over there. I'm out. I'll take the shock. I'm hungry. You see how that's actually in your control? The sheep got out. Why did the sheep get out? Is there something preventative you could have done to make that situation not impact your committed times for whatever? That's a hard question to ask yourself because many of us find ourselves in situations where things beyond our control happen to us all the time, time after time after time after time. And what I realized, because I had a year like that last year, is I just stopped talking about it. I just didn't talk about it. I was like, I talked about some of it, but I was like, meh. Every time something happens like this that's catastrophic, if I talk about it, it's like I give more power to the catastrophe. And if instead I focus on what I can do, maybe some of the catastrophes will stop being so catastrophic. And if I ask myself the hard question, which is why did the catastrophe happen? Is it legitimately out of my control, or have I set up a situation where this catastrophe is more catastrophic because I don't have time to deal with it? That's the thing. Was there something preventative you could have done that would have made this not impact your committed times? Do your sheep always get out Wednesday at 3 p.m. because the mailman goes by and the dogs bark at the mailman and the sheep get out on that day? Have you tracked that? If that's the case, should you accept a call at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday ever? No. No. So as you become more aware of the why beyond the thing that happened, it sets a foundation for making some better decisions. And this is the key. You're lying to yourself about why it happened when you just say what happened. Because knowing the real why of why it happened which might actually land in your lap, is not something you want to have to look at, especially if you're really busy and tired. But when you're willing to step back and see the whole picture, you can find that the reason that it happened is the hardest reason. The reason you were late because this thing happened has a whole lot less to do about what happened and more to do about you. You're the problem. So, with that, one of the most powerful words in the English language is no. One of the things business owners need to learn to say most often is no. In fact, I think about all of the really successful people I know who have built empires, and they say no all the time. Their default is no. If they have to think about it, it's no. And later it might change to a yes, but basically it's no out of the chute until they have time to think about it. Or if they don't have time to think about it, what they've said no to is, I don't have time to think about that. So it's no. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and say no a lot. You need to look at others around you and say no a lot. If you're running your family schedule and it's crazy with ballet and blah, 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 no. If you're still at your job, any of those things, the word no is how you start being on time more often. That's how you be on time. By saying the word no. Why? Because no is the way that you build time into your schedule to properly handle things. Because what's happening is you're not properly handling things if you're late all the time. No gives you a chance to build in that travel buffer. So if you hit traffic, you're not late. That's the real reason I'm mostly 15 minutes early to things, is I build in a travel buffer depending on how far I'm going. Or I don't commit to being somewhere at a specific time. Like I went to Midwest Preparedness. I didn't tell them what time I was going to be there. I told them what day I was going to arrive, but not what time. The way you have mostly interruption-free meetings is no. You don't take the meeting when your kid's going to wake up from a nap and scream. Or you say, oh, if I take that time, the kid's going to scream in the middle of the meeting and I'm going to walk out and I'm going to deal with my kid. Those are your choices right now, right? That's how that all comes together. Generally, when you say no to enough things, you start being on time all of a sudden. And when you start being on time, that opens up more opportunity for you. Being on time to something means you've wholeheartedly said yes to it. You're aware it exists. You've made the time and you have said no to enough other things that you can actually make that happen. I don't think John Willis has ever been late. He's been late one time in 4 years to a live stream we've done together, and we've done a lot of live streams. And that man is a very busy man, but he's never late. And that's because he doesn't commit to be places at specific times very easily. He's very careful about that yes. And I'm sure my live stream with him is not the thing in his week that's making him the most money, right? He's made a decision to be there and he said yes, so he's there. That's why being on time is important, right? Because you have committed to the thing and you follow through on it. And because of that, people trust you. And then the next thing happens. And then the next thing happens. And being late, well, now you're time hurting people. It means you didn't take the time to figure out how long it would take to travel from point A to point B. It means you didn't think about, when you said yes to this thing, what am I actually supposed to do that day at that time? It means you have no backup plan for when things run amok. How risky is that if you're starting your own business right now? You don't have a backup plan if things go wrong, and things always go wrong. Sometimes it means you really didn't want to do it. Sometimes you've said yes to something you don't want to do. And the sad thing is, even if you did want to do it, the message you just sent to everybody who you were late for, they think you didn't really want to be there. They think you don't care about their time. They think you think your time's more important than their time. And that is a damaging message to send time after time after time after time. That's the biggest problem with always running late. It's the emotional impact on the people you most want to have in your life. It's much like texting when you're out on a date with your husband or wife, right? Like if you're texting with somebody else the whole time, the message you're sending is, this conversation is more than our one night to have dinner together and talk to each other. That's hurtful. That's very hurtful. And if there is something going on, once in a while and you don't do that all the time, then you can say, hey, our daughter's having a crisis. I'm going to text with her about this right now, even though it's our night together. I know it's our night together, honey, but this is pretty important too. So do you mind? And your spouse, if they're a good spouse, is not going to mind, right? But if it's every single time, they mind. They at some point they don't care anymore because you just don't care about. You're not showing that you care about them. And being late to things is that same message, and it may not be your loved ones that you're sending it to. You may be sending that message to your employees or your friends. You may be sending that to somebody who you want to close a really big deal with, and they don't give you the deal because you didn't show up. And obviously your time's more important to theirs, so why should they give you their business? Is that what you want to communicate to your potentially huge customer that's going to put you on a trajectory for a long-time success, that you really don't care? I don't think so. Because that is what you're saying when you're late. That's how you undermine your success, by being late. So how do we change as a chronically late person? Really, I think the first thing to do is decide you want to change, right? It can take time to dig out from the core problem, which is usually the wanton use of the word yes. Wanton use of the word yes is not good. Wanton yeses need to go out of your life. But that is step one. Deliver on anything you've already agreed to deliver on. Move things that were stacked too closely together around if you can. And that requires communicating with people like, hey, I said I would be there on Thursday at 4 p.m., but I'm supposed to be somewhere Thursday at 3 p.m. and I already know I'm going to be late. Can we move it to 5 so that I don't waste your time? Even if they can't and they're just like, get here whenever you get here, they actually now know that you respect their time. And then at this moment, when you decide, get really good at no. Why do you think I said no to every speaking engagement that was proposed for me for dang near 8 months last year? I said no. That was probably not good for my bottom line, saying no all the time. But I had to say no to make the space so that when my yeses happened, the things really happened. I was already disappointing people because I'd already said yes too much, right? And I was going to disappoint more people if I said yes. So I just said no. And I realized about halfway through the year last year what was happening so I could do that. I got really good at no last year. And that makes a huge difference because no is your number one relationship protection tool. Are you a people pleaser? I see people in my comments who are people pleasers. You know who you are. You say yes too much. Yeah, I know. It's hard to say no as a people pleaser. Takes one to know one. We'll just put that out there, right? We say yes to everything and because we think the no will hurt somebody, but it actually hurts their feelings more when we let them down. And being late is letting somebody down. So if you think of this show as about you, it totally is. It's 100% about you. Yeah, some people will be like, you were thinking of me on that show. And I'm like, sure. Yeah, I was thinking about you. I'm noticing trends and I notice flaws in myself. And then we share them here. And turns out some of y'all had the same challenges I do, right? Also, when you get good at no, though, you become mostly on time. Whether that means by setting all the alarms on your phone to remind yourself that you have to do the thing, which is totally what happens at my house. It's like, I, strangely enough, have a live stream tonight at a weird time. And it's not during my normal time. And if I don't set 4 alarms, I'm not going to get. I've actually not showed up on shows with people because it was a Sunday show, and I don't do Sunday shows with people. And they didn't have my text number, and they were like emailing, like, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" And I felt so bad because the message I sent to that person is like me showing up on their show like they weren't good enough. And that's not what happened. What happened is I needed to set alarms to go off because it wasn't in my normal, like I don't, as I said, I don't usually do shows outside of certain days. And that's why, because on Sunday, it's Selfish Sunday, and I was dedicating time to other stuff and then, yeah, missed the show. So once you get good at no, you're going to mostly be on time. And then you're going to use the other tools you have, like setting alarms to remind yourself to do that. Rigid times of day where you take appointments or don't take appointments. This is a big one with no. You can actually protect your schedule by saying no, because that's just never a good time. So don't try to make it a good time, or whatever time management method you need. And then when you're late from time to time, because the sheep actually just kind of got out, then you're not sending the message that you're more important than somebody, because it happens once in a while, not every single time we get together. Like if you are the friend who has to be told something starts a half an hour early so you're on time, you need to fix that. But also sometimes the stupid sheep just get out, or you have a flat tire, or they close I-40 because the president's flying all of a sudden, which happened to me once. And in that case, something just came up, and it is what it is. And that's why we have these little devices. We can say we're actually running late because they closed the freeway down, and who knew? But if you're always late, that, my friend, is a symptom. And it's a symptom of great things, like growth. You being late is a symptom of your own growth. You've built something that's requiring your time. It's also a symptom that warrants attention, because if you're growing and you're always late, your next phase is going to be complete burnout as you try to do even more. And it's not about doing more, it's about getting better results. So save yourself some time and start practicing that no. Go out there, show us you can do it. You can do the most important things and say yes to them, and say no to all the nonsense. With that, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at hollaroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.